Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news. Newsmakers talking points tonight on Monday night at the start of the week. The story that needs greater focus. Manipur is on the edge. More than 50 people have died. How does one heal Manipur's wounds caught up in ethnic conflict? Also on the show, Bengal is the first government to ban the controversial film Kerala Story. But why should it ban it? Shabana Azmi is among my special guests to speak out against the act of banning films. We'll tell you more on the other side, but first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9 tonight. Karnataka's high-pitched campaign comes to an end with both the Congress and BJP expressing confidence in victory. But will the JDS prove to be the joker in the pack? All eyes on voting and exit polls on Wednesday. Bengal government bans the Kerala Story, citing law and order. Film producer threatens legal action. Politics escalates. AIMIM chief Asauddin Owaisi hits out, says Prime Minister Modi is promoting films that are based on lies and pure propaganda. Manipur remains on the edge. Toll rises to over 50. Supreme Court asked the centre and state to look into relief and rehabilitation measures as the army continues with its measures across the state. Farmers lend support to agitating wrestlers, break barricades at Jantar Mantar to join the protest venue. Many of them were part of the farmers' agitation 2 years ago. Supreme Court seeks Bihar government's reply on a plea challenging gangster turned Neta Anand Mohan's release from jail. Notice issued to state and centre. After Rajasthan Chief Minister claims that BJP's Vasundhara Raje helped save his government in 2020 during Sachin Pilot's revolt, the ex-Chief Minister hits out, accuses Gehlot of stirring controversy ahead of elections later this year. Ousted AIA-DMK leader O. Paneerselvam joins hands with Shashi Kala's nephew and AMMK leader TTV Dinakaran, vows to retrieve AIA-DMK from selfish forces. MiG-21 fighter jet crashes in Rajasthan's Hanumangarh, killing 3 passengers, killing 3 civilians. Pilot escapes unhurt. An aviation sector regulator, DGCA, asked Go First to stop selling tickets till further notice, even as the budget airline asks a bankruptcy court for an urgent decision on a moratorium. But our top story tonight, a story that perhaps needs greater attention in the national media. Think about it. More than 50 people are dead in Manipur in clashes between communities, and importantly, thousands of people are now refugees and homeless even as we speak. If this would happen in any other part of the country, it would be breaking news round the clock. But it's Manipur. And its distance from the national capital often means it doesn't get due attention. Which is why our focus right at the very top is on a state that's slowly limping to normalcy but remains on the edge after days of ethnic violence. While the Manipur government has now taken several precautionary measures to contain the law and order situation, including the army being brought into the affected areas, the big question, why is this state burning? That's what we're going to ask special guests in a moment. But first, it's our ground report today. Manipur caught in violence.
Today is the 5th day since violence began in Manipur that engulfed the entire state and impacted almost every citizen of the state. The violence that started between the 2 dominant communities, the Kuki and the Meitei communities of Manipur, has left several killed, thousands and thousands of people displaced. Many houses, property burned, and the fire is yet to be put out in most parts of these most impacted areas, like where we are standing right now.
The violence that started on the 3rd of May spread across the entire state. A rally at this ground held by Kuki tribals against according scheduled tribe status for the majority Meiteis became a massive flashpoint. The clashes left thousands displaced and many are worried about the safety of their loved ones.
अभी कोई नहीं है घर पे,
कोई नहीं है।
क्योंकि उसका घर टोटली जल गया ना।
सब कुछ जला दिया, सब कुछ नहीं छोड़ा लोगों।
कल कुछ आदमी को भेजा था, बेटा को, घर में कुछ बचा है क्या, लेकिन वहाँ पे कमांडो लोग था और वहाँ पे जाके देखा तो पूरा बर्बाद, पूरा कुछ भी नहीं है, पूरा घर में कुछ भी नहीं।
The army, the rapid action force and central armed police personnel have been deployed to maintain peace. The armed forces have also stepped up evacuation process.
We're scared and outside too. We don't know since we stayed inside the hostel only.
Right.
Yeah, and now since we are being evacuated, so we are very thankful to the government of Meghalaya.
Government
that's
of
it.
Meghalaya
Yeah.
and the Indian Army that has transported
Yeah.
you. So are you thankful for that?
Yeah,
as well?
sure.
And when will you be coming back? You're a student of RIMS, as I can see from
Yeah.
your identity card. So when will
As
you
of
be
now,
coming?
we have no idea of returning here.
As long as the situation's like this, we won't be coming back. But once the situation settles down, then yeah, we'll come back ASAP.
While tensions remain high, there are allegations and counter-allegations from both the Kukis and the Meiteis. But both maintain they want peace to return to Manipur.
Everyone right now is hoping for peace to prevail so that people can go back to their normal lives, and hoping for a permanent solution to this reoccurring problem of tension between the tribal as well as the Meitei community in the state of Manipur. In Churchandpur, Manipur, I'm Akshay Dungre for India Today.
And while the situation in Manipur remains tense, many students from different parts of the country have started returning to their homes. Students say flights from Manipur have become prohibitively costly, making it tough for many of them to return, flights fully booked. It may take some time before these students can go back to their universities. Listen in to what these students caught in the clashes between the Meiteis and the Kukis are saying at the moment.
बहुत ख़राब सिचुएशन था वहाँ पे। तो पहले तो थोड़ा बहुत बॉम्बिंग स्टार्ट हुआ, मॉब लिंचिंग स्टार्ट हुआ, फिर लोग एक दूसरे के ऊपर पत्थर फेंक रहे थे, फिर गेम विलेज था वो भी जला दिया गया, फिर कुछ स्टूडेंट जो हमारे हैं उनका घर भी जला दिया, उनको सीआरपीएफ कैंप में भेजा गया, हमको इवैक्यूएट किया, जो आर्मी फोर्स वगैरह प्रोवाइड किया, बसेस प्रोवाइड किया, और फिर वहाँ से यहाँ तक पहुँचा। यहाँ पे भी वो लोग हमको हेल्प किया कि टोटल पैसेज बनाने में और हमको वहाँ से निकालने में।
हम लोगों ने एक फ्लाइट देखा कि फ्लाइट का प्राइस कल का 2 दिन बाद का 30,000 25,000 ऐसा था, बट हम लोगों ने तो हम लोग इतना अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते ना।
The situation was tense. Gunshots, you can hear them, but yeah, we had our seniors to consort us. As for our administration, they were also doing their best, and we were told to stay in groups in one room. But yeah, we managed.
I'm joined right at the top by Sayan Deka, a student who has just returned from Manipur, and by Mayuk Malik. But first to you, Sayan, you want to tell us what exactly was the situation that you've gone through for the last 72 hours while this violence has taken place? Sayan? Okay, we'll try and see if we can get through. As I said, internet connections very poor in different parts, particularly in and around Manipur. But the big question, what has sparked this fire in Manipur? Who will be held accountable? Can the centre and the state governments escape blame? Have old fault lines been reignited? I'm joined a short while ago by G.K. Pillai, former Home Secretary and an expert on the Northeast. Veena Lakshmi Nepram is an activist who's been working in the Northeast. Dr. Thonglolal Haukip is Assistant Professor for the Center for the Study of Law and Governance at JNU. He's a former advisor of the Kuki Students Organization. And Kaushik Deka is Executive Editor, India Today magazine, and also handles India Today Northeast. And Rajat Sethi was former advisor to the Manipur Chief Minister. So lots of voices. I want to go to Mr. G.K. Pillai, who, as I said, I spoke to earlier. And I began by asking him, Mr. Pillai, what makes Manipur such a difficult state to govern that every time we think peace is returning, we have another flare-up. What explains the latest flare-up according to you?
Well, Manipur has been having problems for quite some time. The problem between the valley people, I mean the Meiteis and the hill tribes, has been there for quite some decades, and they've not been able to come to any conclusion or a dialogue which has not opened. So the lack of a dialogue has actually created suspicions among the communities. And in recent weeks, a number of developments have taken place which have aggravated these suspicions. And the violence that broke out a few days ago is actually the culmination of some things which have been happening in the last few weeks.
I'll come to and I'll give the viewers an explainer of what exactly is happening in Manipur. But before that, do you think, Mr. Pillai, there was a failure on the part of the government and the police, or was this an intelligence failure that failed to detect the simmering tensions between the Meiteis, who are dominant in the Imphal Valley, and the Kukis in the hill areas?
Well, for all people who were, looking at Manipur in the last few weeks, it was very obvious that tensions were building up. You had the cases of where even the chief minister's function at Churachandpur. You had an issue of where the encroachment in Churachandpur was attempted to be removed by the Manipur government, and there was objection to that. So we've seen this little bit of violence which has been coming, and I think the Manipur government, in one sense, failed to act, to realize, to take note of these signals and take preventive steps to see that the situation didn't deteriorate to such an extent where you had these large-scale, I should say, ethnic clashes which have taken place, which is very unfortunate.
What is the way forward, given that 50 people have died, thousands rendered homeless, Mr. Pillai? How should the government, in your view, restore peace in the state? Is it just getting in greater army presence, or does it require more than that?
I think the most immediate thing is to make sure that there is no further law and order situation. You have to make sure that the law and order situation is completely under control. You have to make sure that those who have been affected are rehabilitated, compensated for the damage that has been caused to their shops, to their vehicles, and so on and so forth, so that some element of trust. Those who have left their houses, their shops, and so on, in all areas, should be able to go back, and all party meetings will have to be held to encourage that. And once this process is done, then I think, or simultaneously itself, the state government should start a dialogue with all concerned parties to try and find a solution which is, in one sense, a long-term solution to the whole issue, all the issues. Land issue, you got issue of their rights on the forest rights. You got issues of encroachment in the forest. You got issues of their own forest rights, which the tribal communities have. All these have to be now put on the table, discussed, a solution found. We've got even the refugees who have come across from Myanmar as a result of the civil war there, how to handle them, where they have to be settled. They obviously have to be settled in refugee camps. They can't encroach on the forest. So all these issues have to be taken up and discussed in the open, and not allow tensions to come up. And this requires some element of goodwill and, what shall I say, statesmanship from the leaders of all the communities in Manipur.
That was G.K. Pillai speaking to me. He is a foremost expert on this area. I'm going to go to all my guests, but I just want to do an explainer for our viewers who perhaps want to know more about Manipur itself. First, take a look at the demography and then the flashpoints. The demography is simply this. The Meiteis are largely a Hindu community, mostly based in the plains in and around Imphal. They are 57% of the state's population, but account for about 10 to 15% of the land area in the Imphal Valley. The Naga and Kuki tribes are largely Christian. They're 37% of the state's population, but they account for about 85% of the land area, and they enjoy scheduled tribe status. Now, what are the flashpoints that have taken place? Now, the High Court ordered the inclusion of the Meiteis last month in the ST list as scheduled tribes. The Kuki tribals believe that as a result, they will lose out. They don't want the Meiteis to be included in the SC list. There's also the problem of illegal immigrants, migrants, which Mr. Pillai explained, crossing over from Myanmar, which is also strife-torn. They are settling in the hills as tribals. Meitei say this migration from Myanmar will alter the state's demography. You've also got poppy cultivation taking place in some parts, which again is leading to friction between tribals and non-tribal groups. So, Beena Lakshmi Nepram, how do you explain what's happened in the last few days? We thought Manipur was limping towards normalcy, was relatively peaceful when elections took place last year. Now these old fault lines re-emerging. Who do you hold accountable?
Yes, first of all, Rajdeep, our hearts are broken. We mourn with the families whose so many innocent 60 lives have been lost, 1,700 houses burned. For the last 5 days, we have been absolutely heartbroken and strongly condemn the violence. This is a very new case of what I call violent extremism. Violent extremism reeling its head in Manipur right again. Yes, Manipur has been seeing fault lines, but Manipur has been a land of diversity, of diverse communities living side by side for decades, for centuries. And why this flashpoint, Rajdeep? It's very, very clear. Right now, I've been conducting research in this area, working with women groups for the last 20 years of my life. Right now, common people want to live in peace. Common people across ethnic divides. This is a conflict engineered, and I say engineered by a few which are close to guns, drugs, and political power. I repeat this. This is a conflict engineered by a few. Let's remember that next year is general elections. We have been seeing so much of violent extremist groups coming up in Manipur in the past 1 to 2 years, who have been talking about how to protect. So yes, there are serious concerns in the hills of Manipur, how they have been discriminated, mistreated, and as Mr. Pillai said, we have a lot to do. But what is also critical is the fact that many indigenous communities, the word tribal, non-tribal, all these again are the fault lines of the remnants of colonial rule, in which divide and rule has been led to many of our communities. Rajdeep, today, Naga, Kuki, Meitei, Assamese, and we do not understand each other because the history of each other has never been in the textbooks of the region or the country. I have been advocating the need for understanding by sharing truth telling, by sharing our concerns, but neither the government, neither in the center nor the state listen to the voices of women, of scholars in our region.
Ma'am, you are saying it is engineered. What explains the fact that Meiteis and Kukis have been killing each other? I mean, who is engineering it? Are you telling me these are outsiders? Are you telling me that these are who are the individuals? Citizens are being killed. Who is responsible?
This is why I'm saying those who are connected with gun running, drug trafficking, and those who are close to power have engineered this violence, Rajdeep. Because
you're saying ordinary citizens do not want it. You're saying ordinary Kukis, ordinary Meiteis, ordinary Nagas do not. No. You're not telling me that the quotas that were given to Meiteis are responsible for this. Kukis are angry that Meiteis are going to get benefits that were otherwise they hoped to get.
Yes, as you see, India and parts of Manipur, many parts, we are living under democracy. Anyone, if they have a right, they want to demand something, they can go to the right authorities. And then whoever other authorities decide through a due process, we cannot take law into our own hands. Manipur has not seen, protest where many of our armed groups, so this is what's happening. Many of our armed groups have been what we call underground cadres. They've been hiding in the hills, they've been hiding across the border. But on the 3rd, for the first time, armed men with AK-47 and 56 rifles were in the rally. were in the rally in which the burning end started, which has resulted in a panic and resulting in mob violence. Again, these are engineered, and we call upon those who have engineered this violence to stop.
You've used that word 4 times or 5 times, that this violence was engineered. I want to understand, therefore, Kaushik Deka, you have tracked the Northeast more than anyone else possibly in the national media in recent times. Who has engineered this violence that Veena Lakshmi is talking about? Is it been engineered, as she seems to suggest, by armed groups who have exploited the situation, the tensions that exist on the ground? You're on mute.
By armed groups.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. It's definitely engineered, as she has suggested, that armed groups are responsible for this recent violence. Because if you have to understand that the people in the Northeast, not only in Manipur, any common citizen, he or she would want development, jobs, progress in the region. They are not into violence. Now, as you have mentioned that Meitei demanding ST rights triggered this violence, it's not exactly like that. There is a whole genesis to the violence. You have to understand why there was a drive by the government against poppy cultivation, then why there were involvement of, as she mentioned, Veena Lakshmi mentioned, that armed insurgent groups in triggering the violence, why the decision of the High Court asking the state government to recommend ST status to the Meitei that came in mid-April, either 14th or 15th, I don't exactly remember the date, but why the violence happened on May 3rd. And there was several kinds of violence that was happening in Churachandpur area. Why those things were happening? There was it was leading up to what culminated on May 3. But we cannot just see it as a tribal versus the Meitei conflict. There are many other layers to this conflict where I believe to some extent the state government also failed to anticipate or triggered. But more than that, you have to understand those other issues of influx, poppy cultivation, and the substitute. It's okay to launch a drive against poppy cultivation or to launch a drive against drugs. But also we have to understand the problems of the poor poppy cultivators, what alternative we can offer to them. So there was a bigger need for everyone, all the stakeholders to come together instead of taking very hostile stand.
You're saying it was not just tribal versus non-tribal. There's the poppy cultivation, there is encroachment, there's illegal immigrants. All of that come together and then are exploited by armed groups. But was the state caught napping? Because, you know, Rajat Sethi, one of the reasons why the BJP won the last election was they claimed they had brought peace to Manipur. But now these old fault lines emerge and the government seems to have been caught napping. The Home Minister of the country is campaigning in Karnataka and the Chief Minister for a long time didn't seem to be fully in control over what was happening.
Well, Rajdeep ji, I first of all want to offer my condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones. I spent some of the most formative years of my life, 5 years, serving as the advisor to the Chief Minister there, which throughout these 5 years we ensured that we worked together with various communities. There were so many buffer groups, civil societies that we kept engaging with. And, you know, I learned a lot based on my experience working there. But there are 2 or 3 observations which I want to make it clear for your viewers as well. First thing is that, see, nobody naps over these things. This has been truly a historic rioting or communal tensions that has happened in Manipur. It is the Home Minister who called the state leadership, Chief Minister, along with the entire cabinet, every 2 hours. He was campaigning, but every 2 hours he used to get onto a call, get onto a video call, and ensured that the required instructions are being passed on.
But was there an intelligence failure? I mean, surely violence of this scale should have been anticipated.
Well, this is the second point that I was coming to, that Manipur in an engineering language, it's a society which is in a classic state of an unstable equilibrium. The equilibrium can fool one that there is permanent peace there. But what I've learned from this entire incident and the way it has quickly unraveled into one of the worst communal tensions is that you cannot take peace for granted in Manipur. This is for sure, and this is where I want to point out to the third thing which has so far been missed. It is the role of the judiciary. Whenever you bypass the soft, delicate process of legislative exercise of churning within the society and coming to rules and regulations, and the judiciary thinks that they are smart enough, all due respect to them, they want to preempt that process. They want to preempt the long process of legislative exercises, and they come out and drop a bomb on the society, and the society doesn't get a time to adjust to it.
So you're saying the High
This is
Court
the
sudden
classic
decision to
example.
give, no, you're saying the High Court sudden decision to give ST status to the
Most
Meitei.
certainly. This is the classic purview of the legislature. It is the legislative body of all these elected MLAs need to constantly do that churning within the society, make the cookies comfortable, find the middle ground with the Meitei community. None of the demands either of the Meiteis or the cookies and the Nagas is wrong here. It's just that finding the common ground where the political leadership has to come into full. It cannot be the judiciary bypassing the political processes over and over and over again. And this point has been overlooked. There are other issues. I understand that poppy is an issue. You have to go after poppy cultivation no matter the consequences. One has to have an iron hand policy. Otherwise, you know, there are so many youngsters in Manipur and in elsewhere. You know, Manipur's poppy cultivation results in opium and heroin. It reaches all the way to Punjab. That's the channel. If you do not stop that, you're pushing the entire country into the mess of drugs. India and northeastern part especially lies in the shadows of Golden Triangle, which is Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, wherein you see massive drugs being moved around. You know, we have
Therefore, you are saying you've got armed groups, you've got the drug problem, you've got illegal immigrants, you've got the lack of a political dialogue, all of it coming together, and of course, old fault lines that have existed, a sense of mistrust. Dr. Tongyal, you know, Dr. Hauke, as a cookie, as someone who's advised cookie groups in the past, are the cookies really caught in this, you know, in these various complex issues at the moment? It's their land which is often being used for poppy cultivation, where there are encroachments taking place. The old cookie militant groups have apparently resurfaced. Are ordinary citizens caught in the crossfire? I'm told your family members are safe, but a number of people around you in Churachandpur particularly have now sought refuge in different parts of the country.
Rajdeep, thank you for having me. Let me start by saying how there is a building of certain narrative which is going on. You know, the narrative is that they demonize a certain community, particularly the cookie community. You know, it's going on and on for the last 2-3 years. But we have been, you know, the cookie communities, particularly the civil society organizations, the leaders, have been cooperative to the government, for instance, in terms of poppy cultivation. We never discuss about why these people are cultivating poppy. And for instance, there's no proper roads in the hills, there's no sanitation, there's no medical facilities, no schools.
So is the anger the fact that the cookies feel their areas have not got the same benefits that Imphal Valley has? Is that where it starts off? A sense of alienation, of anxiety. Is that what it is?
Look into how the funds are spent in Manipur. You will find that 70% of the funds from Delhi, you know, which we get it as a grants, is spent, you know, only, you know, dedicatedly on the valley areas. Look into the institutions, universities, colleges, hospitals. You know, all these institutions are located in Imphal. Then when there is a complaint that why these institutions are not located in the hills, there is no answer. People got angry. Why do you question that? You know, these are the kind of...
So you're saying these simmering issues have existed, and then they get triggered by the fact that Meiteis are now going to get ST status. Am I correct? And then various other groups, including armed insurgents, start playing a role. Beena Lakshmi says it was engineered.
I think this, you know, looking into the nature of how things are unfolding, you know, the riot, how it started appears to be a kind of political machination, you know, from the, you know, top to bottom. So we have to look into this, not only...
Politics of divide and rule.
No, a kind of how this has been engineered, you know. I would blame another, you know, another political, you know, angle, but, you know, this has been engineered for long.
Okay, so, you know, you're hitting an important point. This is the problem, Beena Lakshmi. The fact is the Northeast is complex. There are no easy solutions. There are ethnic fault lines that have existed for years. A few years ago, it was Nagas versus Cookies. Now we are finding Meiteis versus Cookies. I mean, you know, what is the way forward? Can all these groups sit across a dialogue table as one hopes, as Rajat Sethi suggested, and resolve it?
Absolutely, Rajdeep. That's why in 2010, we started the Northeast India Women Initiative for Peace, because our men are busy picking up arms and fighting with each other, and in the process, women and children. I started the Manipur Women Gun Survivors Network to help thousands of women, 20,000 women, who belong to the Kuki, Naga, Meitei, Manipuri Muslims, whose husbands, whose brothers, whose fathers have been killed in the 7 decades of conflict, which has been a part of our region, which is still under a martial law, Rajdeep. So we, the women, across Manipur, during this past days, we have been in constant communication, helping each other across ethnic divides to tell our men that you cannot keep fighting like this. It is only us who continue, the women and children. Right now, 20,000 people are now in hostage-like situation, which in Torbung and other parts where even the Indian Army can't reach. We have to ensure right now proper relief and rehabilitation, get the hostages which are now trapped in many of the communal sensitive areas, ensure that the government of Manipur and the government of India stop this violent extremism. We know election is 2021. Our brother, Kuki brother said
You're linking it. I'm going to stop you for a moment. You're linking it to the elections. You have to go because we have another guest joining us in a moment. But Rajat Sethi, the politics that has been played, I come back to it. Why couldn't the Chief Minister have called for a dialogue between these groups and sat them across a table?
Well, this is where I fail to understand. It's one thing to, it's an easy target to constantly blame the politician because they are the easiest punching bags here. But let me tell you, initial triggers of violence has been going on in Churachandpur for the past 1.5 to 2 months. Various groups, be it the Paites, the Baltes, and all of these small groups within the larger Kuki Zo community had been in discussion under various ages along with the Chief Minister and the state government. Their concerns were towards threefold. First thing was around surveys of the forest. There were concerns that reserved forests are being occupied by the villagers in the hills, and that needs to be cleared through the survey process. There was opposition, a violent opposition to that. So there was these build-up happening, and then the constant buffer mechanism was being kicked in, and it started playing its role. But then, you see then an external trigger happens because of this judgment came in, and then ARTSUM, which is the All-Tribal Student Union of Manipur, all the tribes, the Nagas and the Kukis got together and organized a huge protest. When you organize a very big protest, and even one stray incident in a tinderbox situation like that of Manipur can really blow up the situation really fast. And I think what happened was that in the last 2 or 3 days, in the run-up to that ARTSUM, some intelligence could have been pulled in that ARTSUM is organizing such a large event, and there is a possibility of something wrong happening. Perhaps that's a couple of signals were missed, and the whole state burned because of that. But let me tell you again, post that, the Home Minister and as far as I know, I've been in touch with various government officials. He has been on phone call every 2 hours. I mean, of course, he's not going to announce it to the media every time he gets onto a call, but everybody has been hands-on when it came to this violence, because everybody knows there has been Naga Kuki genocide in the 90s, which resulted in a similar flare-up. So you know exactly that Manipur is in that classic case of a very, very unstable equilibrium.
You use the word tinderbox. You use the word tinderbox, and many will believe Manipur remains on a tinderbox that can explode at any time. We can only hope that some of those flames that are now slowly being doused are now met with a sustained dialogue. I have to end here. Yes, one very last point. Yes, sir.
Yeah, these riots doesn't happen at this scale, often, and we have to be careful. There has to be a kind of impartial inquiry how it started.
You all want an impartial inquiry as to who is responsible for it.
There has to be accountability at the top, and some political solution has to be there. There are demands. There has been going on, for instance, the 6th schedule extension in the hill areas. It has been going on for 45 years, and this has been opposed in the valley. Why are you unwilling to share power? There is no state, for instance, there is a demand for Kukiland or, for instance, Southern Nagaland. But why can't you show off within the state, like, for instance, extension of 6th schedule in the...
You're talking of problems that have existed now for decades. Those problems need solutions. Those problems cannot be settled overnight. And as we've been saying, Manipur remains on a tinderbox. And it's been extremely unfortunate what we've seen unraveling there. I repeat, if this had happened in any other part of the country, it would be breaking news hour after hour. Manipur, sadly, internet cut off, much more difficult to get news from the ground. We can only hope that normalcy and peace return sooner rather than later. Thank you all very much for joining me on my big story. Let's turn from there to the other big story, the storm that's raging over the film Kerala story. Today, the West Bengal government banned the film, and the state BJP warned they will move the High Court against the ban on Kerala story. Remember, this is a film that reportedly shows how women in Kerala are converted to Islam and then become part of ISIS. The decision came after Mamata Banerjee said the BJP was funding a similar film in Bengal on the lines of Kashmir Files. Mamata Banerjee saying the decision to ban the Kerala story has been taken to ensure peace in the state and blamed the fund makers to make films that are based, she said, on distorted, concocted stories.
Why this Kashmir Files? To humiliate one section. What is this Kerala Files? Though I don't support the CPM people, I am talking about the people. I will request the state government chief minister. Very sad that your party is working with BJP. And that BJP is showing the Kerala Files a distorted stories. Then they will every day they are defaming their narrative to defame the Bengal also.
Why is she taking away the right of the West Bengal people? Are they with these organizations who have the agenda to lure women into the terrorist activities? Or they with the people who want to create more awareness about such recruitment drive and the terrorist activities? Or their appeasement politics will keep them away and restrict them not to showcase this movie?
So should a film be banned by the state governments, Bengal being the first one? Joining me now is Shabana Azmi, actor, who's tweeted saying that she is against the ban on the film. Shabana Azmi, welcome to the show. You've come out and said the film should not be banned. Mamata Banerjee says it will create law and order and divisions in society. Why do you believe the film should not be banned?
Well, after a film has been certified by the Central Board of Film Certification, then there is absolutely no reason that it should be banned after that, because that is the constitutional authority. Now, I find it very strange that it is very unfortunate that Mamata Banerjee, for whom I have great regard, has fallen right into the trap by banning the film. This is not the answer at all. I don't think any film should be banned after it has got its due certificate. In fact, I remember many years ago in Parliament, I was the only one who stood up and said, Me, Nathuram Godse should not be banned. Because you must allow people to watch or not watch. I mean, okay, so you don't want to watch the film, that's fine, but there are some people who want to watch the film and you cannot take away that right. Now, why should a state find itself so helpless that in the wake of any kind of trouble that they think will ensue, why isn't the state capable of preventing it from becoming a law and order situation?
No, the point that is being made here is that Mamata Banerjee says that here is a film that she believes is based on distortion and lies, designed as a propaganda film, and thereby will stoke divisions between Hindus and Muslims in Bengal. Therefore, she's preempting, she's almost preempting it. Tamil Nadu has also banned the screening. Do you believe the problem is that our governments want to act as extra constitutional authorities instead of allowing viewers to judge whether the film should be banned, whether to watch it or not? Is that what you are saying, that viewers should decide, or the CBFC decides?
No, once the CBFC has decided, once the CBFC has given it a certificate, then it's for the viewers to watch it or not watch it. When political parties get involved in it, and particularly when a state says that because a law and order situation will ensue, they want to ban the film, that's not the answer. The answer is, if such a thing does happen, then you make sure that your law and order machinery works enough to make sure that it doesn't become a violent protest. And you know, people have every right to say, this is distorted, that is not right, this is what they don't agree with. That's fine. And outside the theaters, you can picket the theater, you can say that this has got all that to do, but I want to watch the film, so I have a right to watch the film because it has got its necessary certificate. I do not think any film should be banned, because when you do that, see, politics has already entered this film, because by the Madhya Pradesh government saying that we will make it tax-free, that already is a statement that is being made. But I want to move away from politics. I am talking as an artist. As an artist, I say everybody should have the right to make what they want.
You know, but
that's what a democratic society
sure,
should offer them.
Sure, but you know, as we've seen, the history of this country is what? Parzania, a film based on the Gujarat riots of 2002, was banned by the Gujarat government. Now you've got Kerala Story being banned by Mamata Banerjee. You've had situations in the past, films that you've done, Fire among them, which also resulted in a very strong backlash from certain groups. Do you believe that there are vigilantes also out there who are using these opportunities either to attack theatres? Some of them wanted Lal Singh Chadda banned last year. That the problem is also not just the way governments react, but way in a polarized society, different groups, self-styled censors react on either side of the political divide.
And that's what I find absolutely obnoxious, and that is happening more and more. And then when political parties join the bandwagon, then you can imagine it's a free-for-all situation. Political parties, states should be there to say, no, you will not be allowed to take extra constitutional authority to abrogate it to yourself and see that a film that has been certified, we are going to disrupt the screening. That is absolutely unacceptable. That's not the way political parties should go.
But what if the film Shabana Azmi is pure political propaganda? We are showing shots there of BJP leaders who are watching this film, who are actively promoting it. The Prime Minister has used it in his election campaign. I know a BJP MLA in Mumbai has promised free tickets today for everyone to watch it. So whether it's a Kashmir Files or whether it's a Kerala Story, what if they get tangled in the political propaganda of whoever is in power? Will there not automatically be some kind of a backlash from the opposition?
But that is exactly what I am saying. That is exactly what I am saying. I find politics so tiresome when it gets in the way. You know, you seize any kind of opportunity that you find, and the person who has to pay the price is the producer of the film and all those who have... I am not talking about the merit of a film at all, Rajdeep. I'm not talking about the merit of the film. You know, it can be a very bad film, it can be misleading facts, it can do all of that. But then there can be another film with an opposing viewpoint, and the more you put attention on it, the more you make opportunity for such further situations to happen in the future. So are we now going to become a country that's not going to be allowed to make any film at all, except something that is Miss Goody Too Little, or somebody that, or a film that speaks only...
No, if it's my point is, if it's a trash film on a sensitive issue, right? If it's a trash film on a sensitive issue done badly, you're saying still don't ban it, just don't go and see it.
Yes, people won't see it. See, if it's a bad film, the fact that the film just is not liked by people will be enough reason for it not to be seen further. You are putting so much extra burden on the film by entering and saying that this is hurting our sentiments and that is hurting our sentiments. And what sentiments tomorrow? Any group, 5 people will get up and say it is hurting our sentiments, and we fall into that trap.
I think that's a fair point. The right of offended sentiments must end, particularly in a country like India. You're saying allow cinema to be shown, screened. Once it's cleared by the CBFC, you don't want to watch it, don't go and watch it, but don't ban a film. And law and order is a state responsibility. I think I've accurately summarized you that. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Rajdeep. And earlier also I've said, of what good is this certificate that is given by the center if we are not going to be able to protect it? Of what good is that certificate? Then don't give the certificate at all.
Okay. I appreciate your joining me, Shabana, Azmi. You've spoken, as always, as you do, shot from the hip. I believe you're off for a shoot again in London in a few days. Good to see you, though. Let's turn to tonight's Good News Today story, and it comes from Pune, where Abhijit Lavande, who lost his job during COVID, has now turned adversity into opportunity. He's become a new age farmer, adopting modern techniques of farming, and has now begun even exporting his produce to European nations. It's our Good News Today story, and it's also time for me, with that story, to say good night, goodbye, Jai Hind, Namaskar. Take a look.
कोरोना का बीमारी आया, उसमें मेरा नौकरी चला गया था.
Abhijit Lavande lost his job during the coronavirus pandemic. This is when he decided to go back to the roots. He went back to his village, Singhapur, in Pune district, where he took up farming.
मेरे पुरखों की जमीन थी 9 एकड़. उसमें मेरे पिताजी और काका अंजीर और सीताफल का खेती करते थे. उसके बाद मैंने 2018 साल में जो कोरोना का बीमारी आया, उसमें मेरा नौकरी चला गया था. तो उसमें मैंने ऐसा डिसीजन लिया कि ये पुरखों का जमीन है, वो आधुनिक से खेती करने का.
खेती में हम सब्जी, टमाटो, बैगन लगाते थे. कभी बारिश आती, जोर से आती तो नुकसान हो जाता, कभी दुष्काल पड़ जाता, इसलिए हमने अंजीर की खेती लगाई.
He adopted modern techniques of farming and cultivated figs, custard apple and jamun.
इस साल 14 टन का विक्रमी उत्पादन उससे मिल गया, और उससे बाजार भाव भी अच्छा मिला. 90 या 100 रुपए तक बाजार भाव मिल गए. पिछले साल मैंने उसी का पूरा रेसिड्यू फ्री अंजीर पका के और सेंद्रीय खत पूरा यूज करके खेती किया था. इस साल भी मैंने वैसा ही किया. अभी इस साल हमको 10 लाख रुपए नफा हुआ, और खर्चा उसको हुआ था 1,60,000 रुपए.
First year, Abhijit says their produce was exported to European nations. This time he claims the prices were better in the domestic market. Abhijit now has a bigger plans for his farm. Bureau Report, India Today.